Oh, hi. This is episode 6 of Outside In, and today is a last minute, a quick episode because we've got a special guest with us today who's visited the office, and his name is Rick from First National in Port Hedland. Rick and Barry have known each other, and Barry's from Beagl Buyers Agency, have been Pilbara boys for a long time and know the Pilbara. So today we're going to talk about and demystify a little bit investing in the Pilbara and what it is about and how you can invest in the Pilbara, what it looks like, and all the wonderful knowledge that these two guests here today have. So welcome.
Thank you, Zoe. Look, just to, I guess by way of introduction, Rick and I first arrived in Port Hedland back in 1980. I continued to be there for 15 years. We had LJ Hooker Port Hedland up there for many years and raised my 3 boys. Jen and I raised our 3 boys. And we've always had a connection with the Pilbara for this reason. And Rick came along at the same time, 1980. You were with BHP for a long time, weren't you, Rick?
Yeah, I spent 28 years with BHP, so got a pretty good grounding there. Doing a lot of investing as I was working for BHP, eventually ended up an agent.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So
not a straight story,
Yeah.
And now Rick is the most prominent agent, I would suggest, in the Port Hedland area.
Fantastic.
Has a massive database of clients from all over Australia. And, you know, I guess you'd have a lot of clients that from the east that have been reinvesting over and over, like repeat clients. Would that be right?
Yeah, well, the 44 years I've been in town, 15 of those in real estate, and that really have built a very good database because I also did depreciation schedules and that which come all over Australia as well. So my database is massive. It works very well for us. And over the years and that, it's about a 60% of investors will come from over east, down Perth way. Working the database, very, very handy to be where we are at the moment, being quite successful and grateful for all of that over the many years.
Rick, I want to throw the elephant in the room to start with, okay?
Oh, yes.
Booms and busts there have been in Port Hedland, all right?
Yes.
And I've been through 3 of those booms and busts in that time. But the relevance, give us your take on the relevance as far as property is concerned in Port Hedland.
All right, well, can I just go back to when we did have the big pullback?
Yes.
And look, it was the perfect storm, if you like. I guess we had a lot of construction going on. We had 2,000 people that flooded into town to do a lot of construction work from about 2009 through to 2012. The end of 2012, those construction workers started to leave. At the same time, we had a very big drop in the iron ore prices. At the same time, we had some global issues going on.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect storm that you'd probably only expect every couple of 100 years. But look, we did pull back, but where we are now is in a much stronger position than we've ever been before. I mean, I'm a heavy investor, but I like where we are at the moment.
Is it because Hedland is diversified?
Look, definitely, and that's what I like about the place, because where we are now, we only used to rely on iron ore, but if you're close to the town and know what's going on with the town, then what we see is lithium. We never had lithium before. Yes, and lithium can be up and down, but we may be getting a down processing plant as well as lithium.
Yes.
We've got gas and oil 100 kilometres off our coast. I have 5 helicopters going out to those every day, so that's something that we never had available to us either. We've got a massive gold mine, which is 80 kilometres just down the road, which is said to be bigger than Kalgoorlie.
Wow.
That's coming online. There's manganese, there's salt, there's lots.
And fertiliser as well with Perdaman in Karratha.
From the Pilbara perspective, exactly. Yeah, Karratha down the road, 200 kilometres down the road is... When we talk about the north, we really talk about the Pilbara as a whole, and I think that both towns have got some massive upside with what's happening up there. I always relate property prices in the Pilbara, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but if something is well and truly over what it would cost to build, so in the boom days, those 3x1s were selling for 1.2, and they would have cost probably 500,000 or 600,000 to build. That's what you'd probably steer away from. I don't think that's going to happen again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I guess it's really super important to make sure that you're talking to someone who knows the Pilbara and has the experience.
Yeah.
I live and love the Pilbara, and I make sure that I'm talking to all the right people. So, being in BHP, I know exactly what's going on there because I worked there for 28 years, so I still got really good contacts, but also with the local harbour and that, a lot of my mates are in town and that are quite high up in prominent positions, so it's good to get the feedback from all of those.
Yep.
But just carrying on, Barry, the exciting thing coming as well when we're talking about diversification is that, green energy coming our way.
Yes.
There's talk of a massive
Hydrogen?
Hydrogen, which will come from, they've changed all the roads to try and get 100-metre blades from the port out to, it's just in from 80 Mile Beach, and so that'll be for windmills and solar farms.
Wow.
It's a massive project, and I think BP got about 52% in that. So
BP?
Yep, that's correct.
Clever diversification from BP.
Look, it's good to have these big, and we've got some massive companies, global type companies that are within our area and within our grasp. We might have 2 big announcements coming up in the next couple of months that can be with a green steel mill and maybe that down processing of lithium.
Amazing.
So there's some game changers out there.
So
it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, so what would you say to somebody who's sitting in Victoria looking at all the numbers for the Pilbara saying that it is, the iron ore price is going down now, roughly they're pegging by 40%. What would you say to somebody like that if they were like, then, don't invest in the Pilbara, it's too risky?
Yeah. Look, I think it's good to have a good average, around $100 a tonne. When you think about it, only costs about $15 per tonne to produce. They're still doing very, very well. With all the diversification that's coming on, the market is much stronger now than it has ever been before. And as I said before, I'm a pretty keen investor myself, and I'm not selling any more property in Hedland.
But we're not getting to those ridiculous prices. It's steady as she goes with good rent. Is that right?
No, we haven't. We haven't reached that peak back there in 2012, and it's so good that we don't reach that peak because we want a level market and we want a consistent market for the long term, and I think we're in a very good position.
That's good.
To go all the way on that one.
Yeah. I think that would scare people if it's all the sudden, if it's doing that again, but it's not. It's been steady as she goes with steady. What has the growth been like sort of year on year for the last few years in the Pilbara?
For the past 4 or 5 years, to be honest, I haven't got the stats right on the top of my head, but it's been consistent, maybe around that 10%.
Yeah.
It hasn't been where it went from about 2019, it went from nothing to doubling and tripling in price.
Yeah.
That's a warning sign. What we're seeing now is far, far different. It's a consolidation and so much room for growth with some big things happening, just waiting on our doorstep. It's exciting times.
Rick, I've always talked about the Pilbara being a good opportunity for investors to balance up your portfolio, and for the very reason that you get such high rents. You've probably got some examples to give to us, but most recently you did the Clam Court sale. Give us some examples of those that sold and what they were leased for and who they were leased to.
Yeah, look, some of the leasing companies out there, a big major company. So we're talking about mining companies. We've got all the majors up there in Hedland, but also government. Government are very strong. Port Authority, police officers, all the different government agencies are very strong as well. And the companies who subcontract to the major miners are very active as well.
Yes.
So, look, that's strong. The Clam Court ones, as you talk about. Look, I've just been selling quite a few 2-bedroom, 2-bathrooms, quite modern, built in 2014. Now, they're selling for $390,000 and they're collecting $950 per week. Now, I've had a lot of investors come in from over east, Perth, all over the place really, and what a lot of them do, they come to our Pilbara and they'll buy a certain amount of property in the Pilbara and then they'll be going out into others and stabilising their portfolio. So what's good, up in the Pilbara is that you can get really good cash flow. And that helps out with being able to buy more property.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's where I'm coming from as far as the cash flow is concerned. Positive cash flow, because it's very hard to find a positive cash flow property in a major city. That's for sure. So the balance is what I'm suggesting people look towards, but get the right advice before you go. We've got some stock in Karratha at the moment, brand new, just been leased to the government for 3 years, $1,500 a week, asking $865. That's, I know that I do the figures on that, and that presents very well from like a cash flow positive type investment.
Yeah, and look, it's interesting that also one good thing for investors up there is you just can't click your fingers and all of a sudden you have 300 houses or 300 units come available to you.
Well, that's good for demand.
So supply and demand says that we're in a very good position for investors, and that's why they come to us. Once they talk to someone who knows the mechanics of the Pilbara, then they quickly see they're quite safe, they're risk-free in coming to the Pilbara now, one, because of diversification, but two, you can't snap your fingers and get a whole lot more supply.
Yes.
It just doesn't happen. Not in my 44 years, it hasn't
It's
anyway.
really hard to build up there. Yeah, well, it's hard to build anywhere in Australia right now. I
It's
imagine there's
expensive
even
to
more
build,
challenges.
obviously, because of the cyclone
Yeah.
rating. And also, there's no land, is there?
We can get land, but as you say, it's quite expensive to get something and build on it.
Yeah.
What do you mean there's no land? I feel like there's heaps of land up there.
Both Karratha and Port Hedland.
It
Sorry, the government, they have not been had a lot of foresight in understanding that there may be growth. And I know that even Karratha, there's,
A bit on the back
Major's
foot.
just taken up the last 30 lots up there, and it's going to be another 2.5 years before we see a bit of dirt, another lot plan.
Is that a land gate issue that they're not issuing the titles, or is it the
land gate.
government, the
It's
Crown
develop-
land being
development.
turned into?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, turning
Interesting.
Crown land into developed land
So it's all government departments dealing with
very,
each other.
is
That
very,
must
very
take a
slow.
very long time.
is very, very slow. So,
Yeah.
but Port Hedland is a good alternative. I think people looking with portfolios in major cities looking to balance up with a cash flow,
Yep.
it's perfect. But you've got to. There are bad areas. Am I right? Obviously, like anywhere, there's good areas and bad areas. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, sometimes we get the buyers coming and say that, but, I'm from Albany, I know a bit about Kalgoorlie, I know a bit about a lot of the regional towns because I meet up with all the other First National people who run the agencies around there. There's always bad areas.
Yes.
However, this is where it's so important to come to people who live in the town. They know how it ticks.
Yes.
Get the local knowledge. I'm certainly open to that. I'll always put forward being honest so I can keep a decent reputation and be a good agent by telling the truth. There's always a sale out there, but you don't have to, go through other avenues.
At the moment, is properties being snapped up really quickly? Like, is it the same as what we're seeing in Perth, or is it like, what's the time a property would sort of sit on market in the Port Hedland?
It can vary, and again, like all markets, and that it depends how you come in. Are you going to come in at the market, or are you going to is the seller going to try and push up higher than that?
Yeah.
And in our case, if they push too high, it'll sit there. If they come in at market last month in February, 28 days, put 11 properties under offer, just myself and my team.
Yeah.
So it's still very active. We said got about 60% of investors, 40% owner-occupiers, so there's still a good split there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
Which
for
you
our
want
town.
for
Yes,
rentals,
we do.
right?
So, Rick, you've
Yeah.
got Port Hedland and South Hedland. Port Hedland would be, is investor's choice as far as a home? Give us an example of a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in Port Hedland, and what it would rent for and what it would cost to buy. Something that might be, 20 years old.
Well, I think I know where you're angling from here, Barry, but I'll tell you this. It's dearer to buy in Port Hedland.
Okay.
You will get a higher rental.
Okay, right.
It's a bit cheaper to buy in South Hedland, but you'll get a lower rental. The rate of return, your yield, will be the same, whether it be port or south. It's smaller. There's a third of the population in port, and there's 2/3 of the population in south. So either way you go, I own property in port and south, and I don't really care which way I go because the yield is still the same.
Yeah.
Right. And some examples of port?
Port, yes, we've got properties out there. If you go out to Pretty Pool, you're looking around, I sold one for about 920,000. That was an investor that picked that one up, and I think we're getting about 1,800 or 1,900
Wow.
per week for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Pretty Pool is a desirable area.
Pretty Pool is, and top half of Cook Point,
Yep.
very desirable as well. So, but the yields up there, you know, we're sort of looking around that gross 11 to 12%.
Wow. Okay. And South Hedland, as an example?
About the same. South Hedland, say a 4x2 that's 10 years old, sell around the 720 to 750,000, can get up to around 1,800 per week.
Yeah.
They're good numbers.
They are good numbers. Okay, so how long, from an investor point of view, how long are we looking to find that tenant? Like, what's the turnaround from sale to...
Or vacancy.
Yeah,
What's the
vacancy. Yeah, and the vacancy rate. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, look, a lot of the time,
It's already leased.
we'll have it released. The important thing here is with good properties and that, they won't let them go. So your government agencies and all your mining and your big companies won't let them go.
Yeah.
Because they know it'll be hard to find another one.
Yes.
We've always got in the clam court there as an example, when one in the clam court comes, we've got to ring the hospital because they want them.
Okay. So, Rick, I'm a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a client.
Me too.
Honest Barry.
We're buyer's agents. We've got a client.
Sat you in the middle.
We've got a client and we've got up to 800 to spend, maybe 850, and we want to buy something that's got a government tenant in there. Are you going to give me a call when something comes up?
I can give you a call, Barry. I just want to see the colour of your money.
Okay, we can't talk shop on here.
But inside information, yeah? I mean, that's honestly, we'll say that's the way we work.
Yes,
basically. We
absolutely.
need to know what's coming to market.
Yeah.
And Rick's always been a great resource to advising us of what's coming to market. And you've got some coming to market shortly, haven't you?
Look, we have got some really exciting stuff coming, 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms, quite a big project coming our way. Now, the return on them are going to be, really good. They're going to excite investors.
Yep.
It's in a project that's fairly modern, and it's going to be in that 2/3 of the population, so out at South Hedland.
Yeah.
And all the major companies and government agents like these because they're modern, they look good, and they're right there within the facilities.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to be coming not too far away at all. In fact, I talked to the sellers this morning.
Yep.
And ticked off a few more things. So it may only be 2 to 4 weeks away that we're running them out, and I think they'll be very popular.
And prices? What are we talking? Like for a 1 bedroom?
Yeah, we haven't.
And then rental.
We haven't set them in concrete yet. We're still going through and doing that, but I can tell you that maybe the net return could be somewhere between 7 and 8%. Net return. Net return.
Wow.
Net return. So that's pretty good, and we're really looking forward to that, pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, okay, well, maybe we'll just take all of them.
And they are leased already, correct?
They've got leases on them.
All of them have leases.
So if you're wanting, you can actually sort of take a view of who's leasing what and say, I want that one because of that company leasing it. Yeah? Is that right?
Well, you can. And what I can tell you, I mean, the clam court, we talked about 2x2s.
Yep.
They're getting 950.
Yep.
The potential is for these 2x2s that will be coming on, will be up around the 1,200.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's it.
Yes.
It's pretty. It's
I actually think we addressed everything because what I really wanted to address today was there's a lot of talk, obviously, about the iron ore prices. There's a lot of people who say it's cheap, but you talked about the diversification that has happened in the Pilbara. We know that. We know that it's happening from a state level as well as in terms of energy sources changing. So we've addressed all of that. Some great opportunities, great rental yields. It's just a good time to invest. But number one, speak to somebody who knows what they're talking about. So, Barry, who's got he's lived there, knows the areas. Clam Court, I was going to ask where that is. I might need to put a map up because I don't know the Pilbara. And of course yourself, Rick, from First National, and to speak to someone who's got that local knowledge, because that would put your mind at ease, and then you would know that you're dealing with somebody who knows what they're talking about and not just buying it from realestate.com, which probably wouldn't work in this instance.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I guess if you're not on the ground and if you're not hearing, funnily enough, one time I was going back to Hedland, this was only 2 months ago, I sat next to one of the senators. I won't go say who it was and that.
We could probably narrow it down.
He did grow up in South Hedland, which he...
I know.
I said, what are you doing in a suit? He was on the plane. It's 50 degrees out there on the tarmac when we get out. And he said, I know what it's like. I grew up in South Hedland.
Yeah.
But a good chat to him, and Roger Cook was up about 6-7 weeks ago and said there's some big announcements coming out for us. So I guess if you're not on the ground, you don't hear and you don't see and you don't feel all this sort of stuff that's going on. 44 years being there, I'm still as excited as ever and love being an agent and selling, especially when our town's in such a good position with this diversification and growth opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
It's the largest port in Australia.
Export port in the world.
Yeah, in the world.
Largest export port in the world.
Yes.
Got to have some stuff going for it, doesn't it, really?
Oh,
Yeah,
look,
it
it does. And
Yeah.
so much more. We didn't know about lithium a few years ago, and now lithium's out there. It's resource-rich country.
Yes, we are. Actually, I worked on a tangent. I was working with the Indian Chamber of Commerce, and at a conference that we had with them, they were talking about the fact that WA has most of the minerals that they need, and they have all the people that we need. So we need to work a bit more together, but we are such a mineral-rich country, and most of those are found in WA and the Pilbara.
In the
at
Pilbara,
that.
yeah. No.
Oh,
True.
well, thank you so much for coming in. I think that this has been so good that you need to come back and do this update with us, and Gary can be a guest co-host from the podcast.
Definitely, love to.
For agents, because I think that worked well together too.
Good to have you, Rick.
Yes,
good to be here,
you.
Barry. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.